In the depths of the virtual reality simulation known as the Neuroworld, something sinister had burrowed its way into the heart of its creations. The users, awash in landscapes of their wildest dreams, had no inkling of the darkness that had made its home alongside them. Tenai, a grizzled bounty hunter, faced Alnar, a data smuggler with a reputation for being untraceable. The two men stood on the edge of a simulated canyon, illuminated only by the electric blue aura that outlined the craggy rocks. Tenai's eyes narrowed as he pulled out a virtual laser pistol from a digital holster. "You'll not escape this time, Alnar. You've been a ghost for too long, and it's time to rein you in," he rasped, locked in a cold, uncompromising stare. "Well, well," Alnar said, lifting his hands in feigned surrender. "If it isn't the legendary Tenai, this must be the end if we've wound up in the same pit. But do you think you can stop the unstoppable?" His voice was silky, but not without an edge. "You leave me no choice," Tenai replied. "Surrender the data, and I'll ensure you're on the first transport out of this forsaken simulation." Alnar chuckled darkly. "My apologies, old friend, but I'm not so easily convinced. Besides, why would I give up all of this?" He gestured towards the glowing canyon, and with a sly grin, stepped over the edge into the abyss. Tenai watched in disbelief as Alnar plummeted into the darkness. He heard the smuggler's mocking laughter echo through the canyon before it abruptly cut off. For a moment, Tenai hesitated, unsure if he should follow after him or not. But then he remembered why he was there: to retrieve the data that could bring down one of the most dangerous criminal organizations in all of Neuroworld. With a determined scowl, Tenai sprinted towards the edge and leapt off into the abyss after Alnar. The wind rushed past his face as he fell faster and faster towards an uncertain fate below. Suddenly, his virtual body hit something solid, Alnar's body, and they both tumbled onto a rocky outcropping. Tenai groaned as he tried to stand up, but something felt off. Looking down at his legs, he realized with horror that they were glitching out of existence. "What did you do?" Tenai demanded, glaring at Alnar, who was grinning smugly despite being battered from their fall. Alnar chuckled. "I didn't do anything. It's the simulation. I've been trying to warn people about it for weeks." Tenai gritted his teeth, realizing that Alnar was right. The glitching was spreading like a virus across the Neuroworld. He had heard rumors of users disappearing without warning or being trapped in endless loops of their worst nightmares. "We have to get out of here," Tenai said urgently as he helped Alnar up. "There's something wrong with the simulation, and it's only getting worse." Alnar nodded in agreement, wincing as he put weight on his injured leg. They could hear the sound of crumbling rocks behind them, a sign that the glitch was catching up to them. "We need to find someone who can fix this," Alnar said through gritted teeth. "And fast," Tenai added as they began limping towards what looked like an exit portal in the distance. As Tenai and Alnar moved forward, the simulation around them seemed to warp and twist unpredictably. The once familiar landscape of the canyon was now a nightmarish amalgamation of jagged rock formations and swirling voids. The sky overhead flickered between shades of angry red and sickly green, as if the very fabric of Neuroworld was being torn apart. Every step Tenai took felt like wading through a thick, invisible sludge, and Alnar's pained groans echoed eerily in the dissonant environment. They reached the exit portal, but it was flickering uncontrollably, casting disorienting reflections that made it hard to determine if it was stable or a trap. Tenai examined the portal closely, noting the frayed edges where the code seemed to unravel. Alnar, despite his injuries, tried to interface with the portal's controls, his fingers dancing over the holographic interface with desperate precision. "This isn't going to be easy," he said. "The corruption is affecting everything, including the portals." Suddenly, The ground beneath them quaked violently. Tenai and Alnar barely managed to keep their footing as the rocky outcropping cracked and splintered. The portal emitted a high-pitched whine before short-circuiting entirely, leaving them stranded once more. Tenai's frustration flared. "This is pointless. We need to find another way out, and fast." His voice was edged with desperation, mirroring the urgency of their situation. Alnar, still tapping at the malfunctioning controls, suddenly froze. "Wait," he said, his face going pale. "There's a secondary failsafe I might be able to access, but it's buried deep in the simulation's core. It's risky, but it could stabilize the portal long enough for us to escape." Tenai's eyes narrowed. "Do it. Whatever it takes." As Alnar began working on the failsafe, Tenai scanned their surroundings. The canyon was becoming increasingly unstable, with massive chunks of rock floating weightlessly before falling into the abyss. The sensation of disorientation grew stronger, and Tenai could feel his own sense of reality slipping away. He struggled to maintain focus, knowing that their chances of survival depended on Alnar's success. Alnar's fingers flew over the controls, sweat glistening on his forehead. The glitching around them intensified, making the air feel heavy with static. "I'm almost there," Alnar panted. "Just hold on a little longer." Tenai clenched his jaw, watching the portal's flicker turn into a steady pulse as Alnar made adjustments. The seconds felt like hours, and the constant roar of disintegrating code filled the air. Suddenly, a loud crack split the air, and a large section of the canyon wall collapsed, sending debris crashing toward them. Tenai dove to shield Alnar, barely avoiding the falling rocks. "Hurry!" Tenai shouted, his voice barely audible over the cacophony. Alnar's face was set in determined concentration, ignoring the chaos around him. The portal's pulse became more rhythmic, a sign that Alnar's work was having an effect. Tenai could see the faint outlines of a stable escape route beginning to form. However, just as hope seemed within reach, a new wave of glitches surged through the canyon, causing the portal to flicker erratically once again. Alnar's hands trembled as he fought to keep the failsafe active. "It's not enough," he said. "The core of the simulation is too corrupted. We might need to access the main server directly to fix this." Tenai's heart sank. "Where's the server located?" he asked urgently. Alnar pointed towards a distant, crumbling structure half buried in the shifting landscape. "There, but it's heavily guarded by the simulation's security protocols. We'll have to navigate through layers of defenses to reach it." Tenai nodded, already moving towards the structure with Alnar limping beside him. As they approached the structure, they were met with a series of virtual sentries, their glowing eyes scanning for intruders. Tenai and Alnar had to use a combination of stealth and quick thinking to bypass the defenses. Every time they thought they were safe, another glitch would expose them to the sentries, forcing them to alter their path. They finally reached the server chamber, only to find it heavily fortified by layers of complex encryption. Alnar's hands shook as he interfaced with the server, bypassing layers of digital security. "This will take a few minutes," he said. "Keep an eye out for any anomalies." Tenai kept watch as the chamber's environment continued to deteriorate. The walls shimmered and rippled, and the floor beneath them seemed to be dissolving. He could feel the gravity fluctuations making every movement a struggle. Despite the growing chaos, he stayed vigilant, scanning for any signs of danger. Just as Alnar was making significant progress, a new wave of glitches erupted around them, causing the chamber to distort further. The server itself began to spark and emit error messages. Alnar cursed under his breath. "We're running out of time. If we don't stabilize the core soon, the whole simulation will collapse. Tenai gripped his laser pistol tightly, ready to defend against any incoming threats. Just finish it, Alnar. We need to fix this now, or we're all going down with it. Alnar's fingers flew over the virtual keyboard, his brow furrowed in intense concentration. The server emitted a sudden surge of energy, causing the chamber to pulse with blinding light. Tenai shielded his eyes and then looked up to see that the glitches were slowly subsiding. The environment seemed to stabilize, though it was still heavily compromised. Did it work? Tenai asked, hope tinged with anxiety. Alnar wiped the sweat from his brow and nodded. It should be stable enough for us to escape, but we need to leave immediately. The server's interface displayed a new exit portal, more stable than the previous one. Tenai and Alnar made their way back to the portal, their path clearer now as the glitches subsided. As they reached the portal, Tenai hesitated. What about the data? He asked. Alnar looked at him with a weary smile. The data is corrupted beyond repair. Our priority was to save the simulation. We'll need to report this to the authorities and hope they can salvage something. They stepped through the portal, and the chaos of the canyon was replaced by a calm, albeit damaged, virtual landscape. They had made it out of the immediate danger, but the Neuroworld was far from safe. The glitches had left a permanent mark on the simulation, and its future remained uncertain. Tenai and Alnar emerged into a secure digital facility, where the remains of the simulation's core were being analyzed. The virtual environment around them was now eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the previous turmoil. Alnar slumped into a chair, exhausted. We did what we could, he said. Now we wait. As Tenai and Alnar recovered, they received startling news. The authorities had uncovered a deeper conspiracy within Neuroworld. It turned out that the glitches were not just a random corruption but a deliberate sabotage orchestrated by a shadowy figure with access to the simulation's deepest layers. The shadowy figure was someone with intimate knowledge of the simulation's infrastructure and an agenda that went beyond mere chaos. It was revealed that this individual had manipulated the glitches to cover their tracks while executing a massive heist of valuable virtual assets and sensitive data. Tenai and Alnar were summoned by the simulation's top officials for an urgent briefing. The officials revealed that the shadowy figure had inserted a hidden backdoor into the simulation's core, which allowed them to control the glitches and manipulate the environment to their advantage. Alnar, with his expertise, identified the backdoor and traced it to a hidden node within Neuroworld's code. They were stunned to discover that this node was not just a simple control point, but a gateway to a secret part of the simulation where the stolen assets and data were being stored. Tenai and Alnar, now fully aware of the gravity of the situation, were tasked with a critical mission: to infiltrate this secret node, retrieve the stolen assets, and expose the mastermind behind the sabotage. They prepared themselves for a final confrontation, knowing that the fate of Neuroworld hinged on their success. As Tenai and Alnar infiltrated the secret node, they were shocked to discover that the mastermind behind the sabotage was none other than the simulation's lead developer, the very person who had designed Neuroworld's security systems. This developer had orchestrated the entire scheme to exploit vulnerabilities and take control of Neuroworld's most valuable resources. In a final confrontation, the developer revealed their motives: a desire to reshape Neuroworld according to their own vision, believing that the simulation needed to be radically transformed to achieve a utopian ideal. They had manipulated the glitches to force a crisis that would justify their drastic measures. Tenai and Alnar, realizing that their mission was far from over, had to make a choice. They could either stop the developer and restore the simulation to its original state, or confront the radical vision and negotiate a compromise that could potentially reshape Neuroworld in a way they had never imagined. The fate of Neuroworld now rested in their hands, as they faced the ultimate challenge of reconciling their own beliefs with the future of the virtual world they had fought so hard to save. But tell me, did you like this story? Would you change anything? Would you like a sequel? Leave it in the comments, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications and leave your like. And for more stories like this, click on the video that appears on the screen.